Hi, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on the time zone you're watching this recorded session. My name is Andrea Rossi. I've been a long timer in the identity space. Was one of the founders at Cross Ideas, an identity governance company we sold to IBM 10 years ago. And I've been in this space and I've seen the evolution of this identity management space, or if you wish, the identity governance space specifically. Um, Little less than a year ago, I started thinking about how to simplify and drastically change identity governance and identity security using large language model, which is a key ingredient coming from the AI world. So today I'll take you through what we do at Yamones. That's the pronunciation of the company, and I'll explain you the roots. So let's get it started. First of all, in a very simple term, what we do it's to redefine the way to run identity-centric security using some new ingredients. And where the most important is for sure the use of large language model, which allows an incredible new way of using your mother tongue, natural language, as a very powerful configuration ingredient. About us, quickly, the company is located in the town where I always lived. So this is my first startup as a CEO, which I established in my hometown, which is Bologna. It's famous for the Formula One. For many Brazilian, it's sadly known because Ayrton Senna died there. But this is a place of speed. Um, the company has been founded by myself and other people with identity management background. So we count three exits within the cap table. And last but not least, it's you might be interested to know the root of the name and the right pronunciation. So the right pronunciation is Yamones because it mixes up the two parts or my two passions. One is identity and access management, and the other one it's the punk music, especially the Ramones. So that's how the name came about. You're more than happy to pronounce it any way you want, especially for the Spanish viewers. I'm even happy if you call it jamones, which makes it funny. The root of the name comes from those two legs. The root of the name also takes inspiration from what the Ramones did to music. They took rock and roll and they played faster, louder, but simpler. And in a way, we want to redefine the complexity of traditional identity governance with a way more simplified way of doing things. What are the problems that today we face, especially in those companies, and there are many worldwide, that implemented identity governance administration? Well, the biggest one is that all the users are lost in translation. I say lost in translation and lost in navigation. And when I say user, I mean business user, people that are expressing their problem in their business term and they don't understand this complex catalog of permission that doesn't speak their language. That's for sure the problem number one. Over the years, the practice or the practitioner of this space came up with a practice which is called role management, which essentially tries to bind or close a translation gap between the technical entitlements of applications written in their very cryptic way and the way users are expressing their problems. This revealed itself as very costly, but most importantly, a role catalog is old the day you publish. So this really didn't fly out. There is another component, which is one of the root reasons why we decided to start Yamones is there is an immense wealth of knowledge in paper. What I mean by paper is digital paper. Can be an application manual that describes the authorization model, can be an organizational chart that describes what each department and job title does, can be a separation of duty policy written in a 30-page PDF, and so forth. All that knowledge, and there is plenty of it written in natural language, today doesn't fly into any traditional identity governance platform. And last but not least, from what we have seen, and I've seen over the years, identity governance doesn't really manage third-party identities. And the reason is sort of simple. While the employees have a source of truth, which is the HR, the contractors, the suppliers, especially those working in the software supply chain, you don't really have an authoritative source. And where is this data where you can find relevant information? It's not for sure, not just in the identity and user credential information. So the third party is particularly important today because a lot of regulations are putting control and focus on managing the weakest part of the link, which is the supply chain. And that's why managing those identities, it's becoming super important. Our mission in identity as Yemonis, it's very simple. And I'll explain how we achieve that. And I'll demo how we do that. It's that anything can be asked in your mother tongue, not even natural language, your mother tongue, but also the configuration of what you want the system to do. It's going to be done using your mother tongue. How we do that? There is a powerful change ingredient that came to the market a little over, I would say, nearly 2 years now, which are large language models. 2 years ago, ChatGPT emerged as the first practical application of large language model. Now there are other vendors that can offer general reasoning capability out of these models, Mistral, Anthropic, Google Gemini. But what these models, they all do are two very important things that are helping us a lot in the world of identity, because keep in mind, we are a translation business substantially. They do two things very well. They enable natural language to be understood and translated into something else. That something else can be a query to a database instead of having to navigate a reporting menu and so forth. But the second part, it's even more important. It's the ability for this large language model to resonate, I say, on your knowledge. So if you attach a Word, a PDF, they can reason and understand that document. So these two capabilities are key, and have been key for us for building our generative identity platform. We gave it the generative identity name. It's a bit of a buzzword, I know, but we wanted to make it clear that we leverage that AI ingredient. So let's start from the bottom. And what I mean the bottom is, if you want to be an AI product, data is as important as any software you build on top. So we find ourselves typically when talking to clients, they want to augment, to extend what they already have done with other traditional platforms. Could be SailPoint, One Identity, Savint. All these platforms are very good, but have been built in the pre-AI era. So for running, they have a UI, which is typically sort of complex. They have configuration in software, but you might have done hundreds of integration with applications, so you want to preserve that layer. So the first option for us is to provide clients with option A possibility, which is building an identity graph, aggregating data that are sitting in different identity platforms. And what we do on that identity graph option A is not just simply to extract the data of users, permission, entitlement account, but also capture the change events. These change events that are happening over time are building a timeline of events that are useful for decisions, but are also useful from a cybersecurity standpoint, because you want to know what has happened to permission accounts and identity over time. There is also another option. Some clients already have done their homework on building an identity warehouse that might be lacking the event component, but it's a good consolidation effort. On top of that, we start to see now what we have actually really built in order to achieve that mission of ask anything, configure everything in your mother tongue. The first thing we did has been a fine-tuned large language model specifically for the world of identity. We call it AIM Brain, just playing with the words of I am. On top of that, a very important component of our platform, it's the instructor part. We gave it the name AIM Maestro. We're Italian, so we like to preserve our legacy in that case. This component, it's the one specifically used for configuring the system, and you will see that during the demo, so no need to further detail on that now. And the last part is the new UI. In the world of large language model, the new UI, it's not a menu, it's not a navigational, it's not a place where a human has to adapt to the software. It's the other way around. The human asks anything, and the chatbot understands it. So in order to understand identity question, of course, there is work to be done, and that part is the name AIM Consigliere. Now, the upper part is SaaS, and it's built on Google Cloud. The lower part, the data, we offer different options for data, but all of them have the option of putting the data in your private tenant close to your data residency requirements. We have a European background, so this privacy, proximity of data to your regulations is super important for us. So this is the generative identity platform. Now I'm going to show you that, and the way I'm going to show you that is to give you a bit of a demo. So the demo will have some core principles which you will always see. You will see personas, and I show you different user stories for different personas that are asking questions in natural language. The question goes to what we call the identity brain, and the identity brain interacts with data that are sitting in an identity graph, which is essentially a data lake or a database that ingests data and events. But also the brain will reason with instructions that are provided in natural language. And this instruction is a broad term for something that can vary from an instruction is a risk policy, an instruction is a workflow, an instruction is a glossary of terms, an instruction is a description enrichment. So we'll see that during the demo. And I'll take you through some of the use cases, not just by myself. I'll be running example 1 and 2. Alessandro Piscopo, our head of AI, will take you through some other use cases, but essentially we're going to show you how we make life easier for all the relevant personas in the identity equations, from ordinary business users, typically those that are lost in translation, to line of business managers that are typically lost in the labyrinth, not only that, but mostly that, of approve and review certifications. We'll take a look how we can drastically rethink the way to do auditing and controlling of risks and security violations. We'll show you how we can drastically change the way of doing role mining. And last but not least, we'll touch on an upcoming capability, which is all about managing the third parties. And the new persona here, it's a project manager, somebody who has to deal with internal employees as well as external to run a project. All right, so that's the intro. Alessandro, our head of AI, which will continue in the second part of the presentation.
Thank you, Andrea. Okay, here I'm logged in as Alessandro Piscopo, who is a company admin of Yamones. So these are the data in the Yamones platform. But then we have also the data in the identity graph. So for example, if I start with a simple question such as, who am I? Which is my job title and department. So here is taking the data from the identity graph and of me, so of Alessandro, and it says you are Alessandro Piscopo and you work in the nursing department. So here the data has been taken from the identity graph, and now I can start making questions, for example, about my peers. So who is similar to me? I want to find the users that are similar to me. So for example, which users have permissions in common with me? So here I want to find the users that have something that is related to me, in this case the permissions, okay, in common with me. And now the data, also here the data has been taken from the identity graph, okay, and here we see the list of users that have permissions in common with me. And then I can ask also for something more specific, okay, for example, about my department. I want to know what are the most assigned permissions to users in my department. So here I have switched also the focus from the users to the permissions. So here I want to know which are the permissions that are assigned most in my department. So I want to know which might be the permissions that fit, okay, for me, because they fit also for the other users in the same department. And we see here that these two are the top permissions assigned to users in my department. And so it will be likely, okay, that these two permissions will fit also for me. So this was one use case of a user that is lost in the current IGA platforms. And now I switch my role, okay, change my role. I will become, for example, a YAM administrator, someone who want to make easier the life of these users, okay? For example, creating roles starting from permissions. So, for example, I can start with what permissions are assigned to at least 50% of the finance department users. So here I want to find which are the permissions assigned to the majority of the users in the finance department. And we see that these two permissions are assigned to the majority of them. So what we can do now is to build a role starting from these two permissions that are highly assigned to the users in the finance department. But before, I want to make a check on the policies and the instructions that there are in the system. So for example, would I violate any policy? Would I violate any policy if I assign these two permissions to the finance department users? So before creating a role, I want to check if everything is okay with the policies, with the least privilege, and so with this least privilege principle that we have defined in instructions. And here there is the analysis. And if everything is okay and we are okay with the analysis, we can go further, and then we say, okay, build me a role finance 50 with these two permissions. And here it's creating in the identity graph an entity, a role, okay, called finance 50 that is linked to these two permissions, right? These two permissions here, the first and the second. And here we see that the role name is YAML Cluster Finance 50. Why? Because the platform recognized that Finance 50 is not a role taken from the current IGA platform of the company, but has been created within the Yamones platform. So then to conclude this thread, we can assign this role to all the finance department users. So to conclude the story of the YAM administrator, of someone who wants to simplify the user's life, we can assign this role to all the users in the finance department. And here there is the recap. So all the users that have been assigned the role, okay? And I want to conclude, okay, with the last use case that is about the third parties. So here I want to share with you another, not the platform, but a document. Okay, so let me change the presentation, and so okay, let me switch to the document. Okay, so okay, so this is a statement of work, okay, that can be, this is a simple statement of work that defines a project, okay, that defines the contractors, the economic details, the scope of work. So this is a statement of work between two companies, okay, where there are discussed the project and the economic details, the contractor details. So we can upload this document, okay, we can upload this document in the platform that I will show you in a second. And so here you see another time the platform, and here in the instruction there is this instruction, which is the statement of work Yamones. I've already uploaded the document. This is active. So for example, if I ask, do we have a contract with Echo something. Echo something, because I don't remember the precise name of the company. Okay, I don't remember if it was Eco Consulting or Eco Tech. I don't remember. This is not a keyword search in the document. It's a semantic search. So it doesn't matter if you say ecotech, eco something. It doesn't really matter. Okay. So this is the result. Okay, this is a brief summary of what we have seen before in the document. And for example, we can say, okay, give me a summary of the statement of work. Okay, for example, I want more details, okay, than before. And here it gives me more details, where for example is written also the contractor. Here we see that there are many informations, okay, and then we have the contractor, which is Eco Consulting Group, and there is Andrea Rossi, okay, which is the independent contractor for this statement of work. And here I can ask, okay, what permissions does Andrea Rossi have? So if this user is in the identity graph, I will retrieve the permissions from there. Okay, so if this independent contractor is in the IGA platform, we see that he has these two permissions. So here, I think we have seen a powerful interaction between a document, okay, document at first, and then with identity brain, so with identity graph, sorry, so with informations and data about IGA identity governance and identity access management data. So this was the last use case that I wanted to show you. So back to you, Andrea.
All right. Thank you, Alessandro, for the meaningful demo on the new ways of using generative identity for tasks that are quite astonishing and revolutionary. I just want to close up with what's the game we are in, and I want to do that through what I call an excursion over the identity ages. For those of you that are old enough to remember the early days of 2000, the identity governance age at that time there was no governance, was basically just automation and connectors. I called it the LDAP age. And then as of 2011, compliance came into the picture and we entered the governance age, which is still active today, built with products like SailPoint, Savent, One Identity, or even my former CrossIdeas company sold to IBM. This was compliance driven. Sarbanes-Oxley started it, but the UI is extremely complex, and the reasoning, it's basically code. And there is a bit of mythology about writing risk policies and all risk and reactivity control. The bet we are in, it's that we think that we're going to start with the new AI ingredients, the generative age, which is not just compliance driven, it's cybersecurity driven. You can do investigations on your identity model and identity data from a security perspective. The UI is just a chatbot. Forget about multi-language, complex navigation and menus. And the reasoning is via large language model. It's a natural language, whether in a document or as a straight text, is the new code. So that's the game we are playing and our bet for the future, trying to drastically revolutionize, simplify, and make identity more reactive, simpler, and less expensive. Thank you very much, and I hope it was you enjoyed the entire session. Bye-bye.